Hello, hello, hello.
Good morning. I'm not sure we're up yet. We gotta wait.
Hello,
24
hello.
seconds. Where is it? There we go.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, because we still like kind of do just channel intro stuff, you know, while
Yeah,
everyone
sure.
else's
That's
YouTube is refreshing.
I want to make sure they see.
The
That's
rock, paper,
our
scissors,
thing.
it's our thing.
It's our thing.
It's our thing.
For no reason. Ready? Finally, after like a month, I win. Welcome to Books We Never Read.
Except for those we have.
I'm Jason.
I'm Nicole.
And this is our last week of The Retreat by Mark Edwards.
Episode 48.
Yeah.
And boy, howdy. I'm telling you, I'm adding more Mark Edwards books to at least my personal list, even if y'all don't want to read more of them together as a book club. They definitely just, I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of fun. So before we get started, let's do our normal channel intro stuff. Please be sure, if this is your first time joining us, that this is the episode that you really want to watch. Especially in a book like this where spoilers are spoiled. I mean, like, it spoils, right? Like, it's for real. We talk about the book as if you've already read it too. So, or at least read up to the point we've read. This is our last episode of it, so we read the whole thing. So just be prepared that we're about to talk about the whole book. So if you haven't watched the other videos, or if you're not caught up to where we are, please back it up, go into the playlist, and find the appropriate video for you. We have tons of other books that we've read as well, playlisted.
Mm-hmm.
And you can watch those through YouTube, or you can listen to those through YouTube Music, through the podcast playlists. That's where we are there. What else am I missing?
Nothing. Mom, if you're watching, remember, don't watch this one. You're not
Get
done
outta
with
here.
the book yet.
Get out
You
of
ain't
here.
done.
Go back.
Go back. No. Because this is the last week of this book, please remember that we're also going to put out our syllabus today for our next book, which I am really excited about. It's going to be Rosewater by Tade Thompson. Dipping back into sci-fi, but with like a totally different twist from what I think we're used to. So
Interesting.
I'm really excited. I read the blurb when I was downloading the book. So
I am excited to read a new book because it's time to read a new book. For some reason, I don't feel like this is the book that I want to read next.
Oh, really?
I don't know why, but I think it's going back into sci-fi, like switching that gear when I had such a good time in this kind of thriller mystery situation.
So this is also a thriller mystery.
Okay.
You're going to be okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm ready. I've got it queued up in my audiobook.
Mm-hmm.
I've got the speed bumped up. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
I'm ready to do laundry today.
I think it's going to be a good blend of where we're at now and sci-fi.
Okay.
So.
Okay. So just real quick,
Peggy, we have different shirts.
Oh, except for this one. I think we share this one. Do we each have one?
We each have one. Yeah.
I only currently know where one is, and I'm wearing it. We have a little section of the closet that has our books we never read shirts hanging. Shelby also says that she wants to read more of his books.
Cool.
You know, is there a sequel, or are they all one-offs? It looks like they're all one-offs, which is really exciting. That could be kind of a fun thing. Like, we need a brain break. Let's go into a thriller. You know, he might be kind of our go-to guy.
Yeah.
I also read on his website that he loves hearing from his fans, and he always answers back.
Really?
And so, you know, I'd be happy to send him some fan mail and see what happens. Mr. Edwards, if you're watching, hello.
So one of my hopes for this, I don't really care if we're famous or whatever. I want people to enjoy reading books with us. But I would like to be famous enough someday, so tell all your friends, for like authors to be willing to like talk to and like host questions through this.
Like
just,
do an Ask Me Anything or something
really
on the
cool.
show.
Yeah,
that
like,
would be so much fun.
Yeah. I'm not trying to like make a check from this, but like if I could talk to somebody about their process and like kind of how they came up with that idea, that'd blow my mind.
That would be so cool.
I think everybody'd have fun with that. So.
And Peggy sounds excited about Rosewater, sci-fi mixed with thriller. Ooh.
we'll get there. We'll get there. All right.
Okay, so getting into
The book.
the book.
I want to. So I'm gonna be totally honest. I read a little ahead last week.
After the show, he was like, "Did you read ahead?" I was like, "No, did you?" He was like, "Yes."
I did. I'll be totally honest. I've never done that before, and I'm never going to do it again because I couldn't remember.
It's so
Yeah,
hard
it's too
to
hard.
keep it straight.
But Nicole got it. She guessed it out the gate.
Then that
Guessed
house.
it. I didn't see that coming. I'll be honest. I did not see that. Oh, I forgot about this. This is embarrassing. I was wrong.
It's not embarrassing. It's
not
fun.
embarrassing. But so picking up on like all the food missing and like the blankets and cloaks and stuff, and like Nicole's just like, what if there's somebody in the walls? There's somebody in the walls.
There's somebody in that house.
Man.
Look,
I
stuff
didn't see
just
that
doesn't go missing. You misplace
Yeah.
a thing,
Yeah.
right? Like sometimes you put the stapler in the refrigerator or something like that. That happens, but your tampons don't go missing. Look, I don't want to talk about it. Tampons don't go missing.
Mm-hmm.
Soap and sandwiches don't go missing.
Yeah.
A red cloak doesn't go missing. How did the cell phone end up in the bookshelf? And how did his pen end up in Mark's pillow?
I think
Max, whatever.
possibly, but I think also it was it's not Clarice. That's what I'm trying to say now. Karis.
Mm-hmm.
I think she was doing it to like sow discord and like just mess with people. Right? She decided she was going to be a haunting. She didn't start that way. She's been like living down there forever, and it wasn't until all these people started coming through recently that she was like, I'm going to spook them and get my house back. Because whenever her dad died and before Julia moved in, she was like living in the house. She had moved upstairs and was, just hanging out. And then all of a sudden she went upstairs one day and there was people in there touching all her stuff. And she wanted them out. And so she chose to become a haunting.
Hmm.
And so... I'm sorry, that actually may not be accurate. She might have chosen to do it after she kidnapped Lily.
Because the investigation was opening up and she realized people were looking for her and asking questions.
It's really kind of two separate problems, right? The haunting bit has nothing really to do with... She saved Lily.
Yeah.
Right? Separate issue. The haunting thing was trying to get the people out. Related but different. So,
Yeah, this is definitely one of those stories where like there's more than one thing going on here.
Yeah.
More than one problem.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so that's what's really interesting about this was that... So let's read my guess real quick. Just
because
it's related.
Jason had taped his guess in the back of my notebook about what's going on. He said Lucas's father, witch cult.
Yep.
Cult includes older B&B lady, grandfather, stranger. They kidnap and ritually sacrifice kids to get eternal life.
That's what I wanted.
Lucas's father was not involved in kidnapping Lily and has now died. Lucas remembers some of this from his childhood of his father looking for a child, thus the memories.
Yeah. So my hope was that it was so I was on to the historical society.
Yes.
And there's that one piece where the old B&B lady says, "Oh, well, he's the first to die," and that one's really interesting. And she means that he's the first of the historical society to die. But what I thought was going to happen was that the historical society, like I wanted I think when you have thrillers like this, and then they're like, this was really good. I really enjoyed it. But I also love when you're like, oh, it's real, right? So there's a movie on Netflix called The Ritual. It's kind of a horror, and it's really interesting because it deals with trauma and psychology and everything. But then at the end, it's real, and that's like a great twist because people don't see it coming all the time. I don't want to spoil it too much, but I'll remind you what happens. And I wanted that to be the case. I wanted these to be people who had like lived back in history and have been sacrificing kids every 35 years, and they are just still alive, and the witch is real, and they are real, and I don't know, maybe Lucas's dad had decided it was time for him to get out, and they moved to Spain, and he dies, or whatever. Or maybe for some reason he had missed the last ritual, and so then he dies. Lucas's dad is still involved. He doesn't do anything, but he's involved in like the little club. And circling back around to your point, that's what's really interesting about this is that there's one mystery that's really two mysteries that becomes one mystery again. And so I don't know that we ever could have predicted the true outcome, right? You called it, somebody's in the walls. I don't know if anybody could have called it that was Karis, right?
Right.
Somebody could have like blind guessed that, but there was no evidence for that.
Right.
There was no evidence for it being. In fact, we were thrown off and thought it was the Gardner man, right?
Which it was.
Yeah, but that wasn't her father.
That was Karis's.
No, yeah,
mean,
you're right.
no.
He did the sacrificing, but Karis's dad was
Right.
the other guy in the club.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, like it was everybody.
It was very convoluted.
Yeah.
And this shows. So one of the things I wrote down, because I'm always digging into themes and looking at the big picture here, the danger of superstition.
Yeah.
And we don't seem to think that all of our superstitions are dangerous, because there are some superstitions that are very comfortable to us. But when you systematically insert fears into children and into people, you are creating, a gumbo of danger, right? Like you are setting up a group of people, a community to do bad things for good reasons, or what they see, from their perspective.
Sure.
And it's just very, very dangerous.
It reminds me of like the Dune prayer, right? The fear will move over me and through me, but not only but it's because oftentimes the fear is the only thing that is real. There is no witch, or what if there is nobody stalking you, or whatever paranoia people have. I have a rule for myself where, like, if I realize I'm doing something out of anxiety, I don't do it, because I think probably the only reason, like, it's not doing anything but the anxiety, and so if I just wait for that to go away, then I'm good.
Yeah.
But like, how often do we create problems for ourselves because we are reacting to this thing that is only within our minds, right? Now, to be fair, there was a lot of stuff going on here that wasn't only in our minds, but
But I mean, so Glenn Collins ended up being not guilty of any actual violent act, but
in relation to this particular thing,
sparked the fear that led Rodri to steal a child, Albert to counter-steal a child, build a system of walls within their home to keep this child hidden. Take her to the police station.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you?
Or is it like he couldn't adopt her because he had a felony like 30 years ago or something? I don't know the rules. Sounds unlikely, but like, okay, right? Like, it was crazy.
Get a dog and take this child to the cops.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
I think, unfortunately, the relationship between her and the man that she called father, whatever his name was,
Albert.
I think, unfortunately, that relationship is like the least explored, because he's not alive anymore, and she only thinks of it as positive,
Right.
And it's obvious to us looking in that like, hey, I don't know about all that. This is weird. But there's really just no discussion of it. So.
And, it just, you can see through the generations how this just got worse and worse. Because look at Helid and her behavior there at the end. I mean, she pushed her mother down the stairs. Yeah. She threw Julia down the stairs. Yeah. She killed Zara, right?
Yeah.
I mean.
Well, she pushed her down the stairs and she died. Yeah. Or she closed her in while she was down there and she died of dehydration.
And her legs were broken. Yeah. That is serious murder.
Yeah.
I mean, that is like a lunatic.
Yeah, her like poor little boyfriend had like no clue. He's just like bopping around being the taxi driver. I'll be honest, I thought the Helid I thought the Helid arc was the weakest. Just, my parents killed somebody 30 years ago, so I'm gonna like kill them and others.
But I mean, that story was just, it was weaved into her world that she had been a protected entity.
Yeah, you're right.
And that they made huge sacrifices for her. It's a form of abuse, right? So she was kind of like groomed into that, but she was able to kind of push it away. There was no consequences. It was 30 years ago. Yeah. She's grown. She's got a boyfriend. Everything's fine. Until knock, 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 here comes the past. Yeah. And she snaps, right? And because she was groomed into all of this, you have been protected and we have made the sacrifice. Right. She had to be extreme to protect the family.
Sure. If she had had an upbringing that was more similar to Karis, I would absolutely buy it. But like she went to school, right? Like Helen went to school and she went around and like did things, and she'd heard other people talk about the witch and had heard people probably say like that's not real, or like she was really well adjusted until she wasn't. And I'm not saying that can't happen. I'm just saying it was the weakest point, right? And this had a story with somebody living in the walls, which should be the weak point, but it wasn't.
But when it comes to like superstitions and fears, our suspension of disbelief or whatever, I mean, it's wild.
Yeah.
We are so quick to grasp onto that.
Yeah. I don't know, in my experience, it's just so things like that aren't just so isolated that you can fly under the radar and then that happens. Like you might fly under the radar, but whenever people start looking, they're like, oh, okay, right? Like she's also been sacrificing cats in the backyard or whatever. Yeah, like there's a tangential things that are also related.
And so this kind of makes me think of like worry for Lily too. When Lily came back,
oh yeah, she ain't all right.
She had the moths, right? And as soon as it mentioned the black moths, I was like, oh, we got something in there. So she pushes little old Megan into the river and the moths fly away.
That was a great ending. I loved it.
I wonder how long it's going to take before that comes back around for Lily.
Yeah.
Like, is this really the end of it and can she live happily ever after?
Yeah. If the ending was just like she and Megan are cool now, I'd been like, nah. I loved it.
Oh, man.
That was the only way.
And again, the danger of just trying to scare kids and tell them these stupid stories and build these superstitions. She tried to kill her friend and then got killed for it.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, poor Jake, like, what was he pointing and saying widow for? What was he?
I'm still
doing?
not sure that he was saying it. Yeah, we never really got back around.
It was just a red herring.
Yeah, maybe.
It just, I mean, if anything, this is a little like morality tale, a little warning of like, check your superstitions. It's fine if kids like scary stories. They will seek them out. They will watch their Freddy Kruegers and they will do all that. But for you to, from day one, be instilling these scary stories into them and making them think that there's something out to get them or there's some, pit of hellfire awaiting them. It's damaging.
I read, I guess it was the afterword, maybe. I don't know if you read that. But Mark Edwards kind of talks about like where he got these ideas from.
Yeah.
And one of the things he was like, I think this happened. I think somebody was living in the walls. It did. That happened. It's probably happened more than once. But the last one I remember was like maybe 10 years ago. They found a lady in Japan living in somebody's cabinets. Yeah. Crazy.
When that story came out.
Check them.
That changed my life. In college, we had like we lived in these old dorms and there was these like overhead bins or whatever. And I was always just like, I couldn't really see all the way back there.
One time after we just moved into this house, there was this crazy sound in the attic and we were like freaking out. We got pots and pans. Like we were ready to go. Like, I don't know if we have any like melee weapons, but the other weapons were not appropriate for whatever was in the attic. And we were like,
we had a pot in a trash bag, and
because we thought it was like a raccoon or something. We're just gonna catch it. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Anyway, it was
he
a
was
June
probably
bug.
worried it was a person. It was the tiniest little.
It was the tiniest,
bug.
loudest June bug I've ever seen.
We were ready.
Yeah, but more to that point, not only was that an inspiration for this story, but he said that his one of his kids introduced him to Slender Man, which is sort of an urban myth that I am fascinated by. And Slender Man really became popular probably like it would have been like
early aughts, huh?
No, it would have been like
teens.
2011 or 12 maybe. 11. And anyway, but like we used to play the video game at my house in college, and we'd turn off all the lights, and I had this big computer with like great sound, and we'd play in there and film each other, and it was a blast. But
and some kids died.
Yeah, there was
this. The girls took a girl out in the woods and killed her.
I can't remember now if they killed her. I think the girl lived.
Oh, bless it.
Anyway, there's a documentary about it, but if you don't know anything about Slender Man, it's absolutely fascinating, sort of like internet creepypasta stuff. But it's a modern myth that is, it has ancient roots, I suppose. It's really not all that original. But, I mean, like, there were 12. There was 3 girls, there were 12, and one of them had sort of this kind of idea that we're talking about, and they dragged this girl out in the woods, and they stab her a bunch with, like, a scissor or something. Yeah. I think they're still in jail.
I hope so. You do big girl crime, you get big girl sentence.
Big girl time.
When when I was a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
I had a student who he came into the class. Like the bell had rung and I was standing at the door and the kids were coming in the classroom. So I was watching the hallways because my kids knew what they needed to do. You sit down, you get started on your work. Well, one kid who I loved, but I didn't realize it was him. Anyways, one of my students put on a Slender Man costume and it covered his full face and everything. And when I turned around and he was standing right behind me, I went after that child and they were like, no, 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 it's so and so. Like I was about to throw someone on the ground and get them out of there. I didn't know what the heck was happening.
It's a felony to cover your face.
Right.
So.
And I mean, but that was
Knock 'em
a
out.
real thing going on, you know, in the 2010s.
Yeah. Man.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was crazy. You thought someone had been in your attic at some point back in your condo.
Yeah.
He went to sleep one night. He's like, the attic light's on.
It was.
I haven't been in the attic. And I was like, I got it.
Well, when I moved into that house, I went up into the attic and there was a box fan set up, pointing at this like ring of small dolls. Like dolls is not the right word, but they were plastic people, and they were standing in a circle. And there was a fan up there, and so I was like, "That's weird. Like somebody's been hanging out up here." Then, not only that, but my condo touched against somebody else's condo, and there was a hole where you can move between your attic and the next.
There was someone up there.
There was for sure.
Oh man.
Let's catch up on the chat.
Okay. Goodness, did you see anything that stood out? There's a lot going on.
Let's see.
Okay.
So Shelby said that her guess was that Jake had lured and taken Lily into the woods because he believed in the Red Widow. And yeah, now what's really interesting is that like it was really because his sister convinced him, and not because his grandfather had convinced him, which was also kind of like a twist that I'm not sure that we could see coming. But Jake was definitely one of the prime suspects for us come last week. You know, so that was definitely a good guess.
But it's totally Megan that manipulated that situation.
Sure.
He didn't choose to do that.
And Peggy says that her guess was that Rhodri had killed Lily and put her under the peonies, and that Megan was breaking in. And I mean,
yeah,
you're not that far off, right? But yeah, that one definitely stood out as well.
I did also think that it was Megan.
Oh, really?
Kind of scooching around in those walls, stealing. Because I was like, she's at the age where she need tampons. It was tampons that really had me going.
Yeah. Nobody. I think you had guessed a couple times, like, what if Karis is still alive? Or no, you guessed Lily was still alive. Yeah. I don't think anybody had really guessed that Karis was, but that was a fantastic twist.
Yeah. I threw so many guesses out there. It's not.
We're kind of cheating at this point. So.
We can't go back and be like, oh, you totally got it right, because I guessed everything. I'm still on board. I think they need to, like, stick a canary in that house.
Oh, yeah.
There might be some carbon monoxide poisoning.
Shelby says it was crazy to me how much the adults carried on the superstitions, not seeing any signs of the impact it had on their kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, and I would really be interested in knowing, like, was Karis really the first one? You know, we think that there was one before because Glenn mentions it.
But that might have just been
a missing kid.
Just a coincidence, right? Like a kid fell in the river and they never found her.
Well, but like how far back does this really go, right? Like this like generational trauma or whatever, you know. That'd be interesting.
It's just so infuriating to me. And the fact that they took a superstition and have destroyed real lives out of it. Yeah. There's just no more worthless.
Peggy says, how many people appear well-adjusted, but they're all messed up? Here's the secret. No one's okay.
100%.
None of y'all. Ain't nobody
100% of us are running at 10%.
That's the truth. You know, one of the things, this is not really related, but now that I think about it, it does tie in. But I often will tell Nicole and other people that adults are just big children. And when you think about adults being big children, when they throw tantrums in a McDonald's and stuff like that, like, you understand, like they're reverting back to this behavior that they have from their childhood. And then when you look at all these people and you look at these adults, you realize that they're just big children, right? And they are going back to these stories that terrified them. What if I die? Well, then what if my kid dies? And there is this fear that was put into them as children that bubbles back up, you know? And I had a conversation with my brother, you know, recently, just about like, you got until like your kid is like 6 or 7. And then after that, it's a struggle to fix whatever it is that you did wrong, you know. And but like we're all like that. You know?
This book also just made me make a note of how hard it is to be a parent, and especially I think, in this case, to be a mother.
Yeah.
Like, poor Julia. I'm so proud of her for, holding on hope that her daughter is alive, just for noticing that the pieces didn't add up for her daughter to be dead. Not that she knew what to do with that information, and even if the pieces had added up, she still might have been convinced that her daughter was alive.
Yeah.
But just, that's the ultimate, just terrible thing to happen, for, a mom to lose her child, for a parent to lose their child. And seeing her journey throughout the novel, I was just very touched by it. Just a real life sad thing.
Yeah.
And I was reading on the website that this author likes to write, thrillers and mysteries about regular people. And this is very much a regular people book. No one here is exceptionally smart. No one here is exceptionally rich. No one here is exceptionally anything. They're all just exceptionally superstitious, but that's it. Just regular folks.
What is the medium's name?
Ursula.
Or can we talk about Ursula?
Get her out of here.
She's the worst character ever, right? Like she's like, I was hanging out in the study, and like normally when I hear my spirit guide, it's like in my soul, but this time it was whispered and like moving the hairs on the back of my head, and it said, pick up the pin, don't turn around. And I was like, okay. And so then I like did all the stuff that it told me to, and like I just didn't think to tell you guys that like that's not normal. You are the problem. Right?
Number one, if you're hearing voices, either there is someone in or near the room speaking to you, or it's time to go to the doctor. No matter what. That's the only two possibilities. Or like YouTube is on in the background, right? Like, there is either a voice with a body or there is not.
Yeah. So one of my other...
I just want to punch her in the face. I'm not a violent person. I need to punch some sense into her.
One of my other theories was, what if Ursula was the Red Witch, right?
Right. Well, because the red coat.
Sure.
And,
but like that would have been a lot of fun for her to have been like impersonated. Like so.
Ooh, like a possession.
Maybe, or like what if then Lucas decides he's gonna like Google Ursula and pulls up her picture and she looks nothing like the Ursula downstairs. Like that would have been a really great moment.
Yeah. She was just such a nut and button. But she popped up just in time for Karis to be able to use her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Poor Karis, man.
Yeah, so that's
one of those so sad.
I believe in rehabilitation. I believe that people can get better, depending on the extent of your trauma. And I'm not, like, there's no scenario where Karis just, like, gets an apartment at some point in the future and, like, lives alone. Like,
No, but
she's gonna go to a home and she's gonna live out the rest of her days as best she can, and that's okay.
But I think that Karis could have a good life, in like a sheltered home, environment,
right? But so then that brings me to Lily,
and like the state needs to pay good money for that.
Sure, but it brings me to Lily, who is going to be living in there with the rest of us, having dealt with all this.
I think she'll be fine.
She murdered a child.
She almost got murdered. Let the dead bury the dead.
I'm just saying. That's one of those things where, especially when there's something that young, and like at what point, and like Lily's already kind of twisted right before this ever happens. I'm gonna throw this doll in the river and then go high. I mean, like she's not. She's like smart in the weird, creepy way. And what happens when now she's realized that like, well, I can kill people. That I don't like. There's a second book here where she's a murderer.
Yeah, so Shelby says that there's a sequel called The Magpies. Maybe it's and he talked about the magpies in the woods. Yeah. And so maybe there's a little follow-up.
Yeah. It'd be cool. Check that out.
Let's see, what else? Ursula needs to get her red coat and leave. Yeah. I agree. She was just...
She said, Shelby says that Karis needs to live somewhere with very thin walls, so she can't be like in them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Poor Karis.
I mean, ultimately, like Karis it's over with, right? Like she's gonna go to her happy home and hang out there. But Lily is now a liability, and like I don't want us to be like, oh, cool, Lily came back and like everything's happy. It's not.
Poor Lily.
And Lucas is a fool because he's like, I'm gonna stay here with you guys, and now I have my little family. No, sir, no.
Get out of there.
Uh-uh.
Get out of there.
You
But
got tunnels in your house.
oof.
Find a new house.
Well, they're also, speaking of like recent stories of people living in the walls and stuff, there's that fictionalized series on Netflix based on a true story, The Watcher.
Oh yeah.
If you haven't seen that,
So
it was worth watching. The last episode ruined it for me. I liked the second to the last episode as the ending. It was stupid.
Okay. The show is really good, but looking into like what the mystery is, the real mystery is actually really interesting because it's not nearly as good as the show. I'll be honest, but it's still
Because real life is
Interesting.
boring
Yeah.
and plain, and
it's still really
supernatural things don't actually happen. So
Yeah,
there you go.
but could they?
But it's fun to embellish and
Yeah.
to have a good time.
Yeah.
But just don't push that onto children because they internalize it and kill people.
I was gonna say something about.
So sorry.
No, it's fine. It doesn't matter. It'll come to it.
Man. Okay, so you
Oh, that's what it was. When we were looking for a house, we went to a house that had a bunker, like a legit bunker. And you had to pull open like this giant metal door, and then you could go down there. We didn't go down, but like
yeah, he wouldn't let us.
if we were doing this show in that house, I would have had to go check the bunker. Like, first go make sure because it was in the front yard.
Yeah, I was gonna say the bunker access was in the front yard.
Yep.
If you look at it, you kind of know there's something there.
Yeah, weird.
Weird. Okay, so you are a writer, and you're going to a writer's retreat, and you end up at this writer's retreat with Julia and her missing child and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Would you stay? Would you investigate? Like, would you get all involved like Lucas did? What would you do in this situation as you stay and you kind
I
of start
definitely
learning some
agree
things
with the
going on?
assessment that Lucas was really in this for Julia. Like he's trying to get with her. Like I don't care what he says. I have like a very sociobiological kind of point of view on everything, and like of course
There was an attraction and that
Yeah,
drove the
like, of course.
investigating.
So I don't know that I would do that. I would probably like do the Googling, and I might like talk to people in town or whatever, just because I'm interested and as a writer, like I'd be more interested in like how weird is it that this is like my book,
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Right.
what's also interesting is so the whole point was that there was like a troll living under a bridge, and there's a troll living under the house, right? Like that's kind of there's a lot of parallel there, but I mean honestly, I would do that to somebody. I'd be like, your kid's dead. I don't even care if they're possibly alive. Just you got to move on, and if they show back up, that's fantastic. But you can't live like this. So like if I had showed up and Julia was sitting there with the candles in like her like cottage or whatever, like waiting for her kid to come blow them out or whatever, I'd be like, that's sad. You need help, like an intervention or something. Yeah.
If I were Karis and I went and blew those candles out, I also would have grabbed a piece of cake.
Word. I would grab the whole cake.
I mean, you live under a house. Get you some cake.
Yeah.
Yeah. That. Okay, so, we kind of touched on this, you don't do a bad thing for good reasons, right? Like, I think that was from maybe Jude the Obscure. There's a quote about that. But anyways, what makes a person a bad person? Where's the line? If you do one bad thing, are you bad? Are you mostly good and you just have this one weird issue? This talk of like what it is that makes us who we are. So like Karis.
Are you asking me good or bad?
She good or bad?
Right. I don't buy into the dichotomy.
Yeah.
Right. I think you know this. Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah,
Okay,
but I mean, just like
I don't buy into it.
She's holding a person captive, but she can't help who she is because she also has been held captive. She like stabs her.
Yeah. I don't buy into is somebody good or bad. People are people, and like, but I don't buy into the whenever we say that we have this like immediately in my mind I see scales, you know, and like which way does the scale lean? And if it's a little more on the good side, I guess you're good, right? There's no scales, and there's nothing that you can ever do that will balance out the things that you have done.
Right.
They are with you forever.
Right.
And you can try to do more good, and that's fantastic, but that doesn't outweigh. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
And Karis is complicated, just as we all are, perhaps a little more obviously, but you know, yeah, I don't see a need to have to make that choice, right?
Yeah.
Is her father good or bad?
Right, Albert?
Yeah.
Right, that was my next one.
Because if you're gonna say he's bad, then she's bad, right? And like, who gets to decide? I get to decide. Me.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say it, right?
Right.
Like, and they're all dangerous.
Yeah.
Including Lily. Everybody bend down up in there.
Well,
dangerous.
and Shelby points out, you know, she didn't just push Megan in.
Mm-hmm.
She watched her drown.
Yeah. Well, and she like did this whole like speech and like she like organized the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry, but if I get you kidnapped for 3 years or whatever, and then you're like, "Do you want to go in the woods with me?" I'm busy that day, right? Like, I'm not going. Whatever.
You know, and Lily really lost an opportunity to just mentally torture Megan for the rest of Megan's life.
Yeah.
You know, just by holding this information that this is what happened, and you know,
yeah.
Why don't you go get me a Starbucks today, Megan?
Yeah.
Thank you, Megan. Yeah.
I want to jump back to Peggy's point to clarify my point. She says if you leave a kid in the woods, you're bad. I don't disagree.
Right.
My general... I'm very hopeful. I like people. I think we're going to do fantastic things. I also think we're basically all bad. Like, I just kind of have that, like, default mode, right? There's this idea, you know, that people have of moral relativism. Like, I can't tell you what's right or wrong for you because I'm not you. And I don't buy into that. Just everybody's wrong. And if we start there, then we can act with compassion, but also make, like, the right judgments about, like, the liability that you bring to society.
Try to do the least harm and
so
reaction.
Whenever I say, like, is somebody good or bad, everybody bad. I'm starting there, and then we're working our way up. And that might be some trauma on my part, but it's fine.
Yeah, Peggy points out the only good one here is Ollie.
Yeah, he's the only good one.
Poor Ollie. And, you know, he fed the girls some scary stories and told them he saw the witch, and then felt really bad about that afterwards, as he should.
Yeah.
I don't understand what joy people get out of scaring kids.
People are bad. Yeah.
That's just weird. Peggy says we need some overlords. Humans aren't doing a good job alone.
They're all bad too.
Gold star for a throwback to...
Yeah,
Childhood Sin.
Childhood Sin.
There you go. Good morning, Allison. Better late than never.
Well, better hit replay because we almost done.
You know, Lucas mentioned several times, like, are we all just getting caught up in some mass hysteria? Mm-hmm. You know, talking about how there can be multiple things going on here. Yeah. Also, yes. You know,
yeah, sure, absolutely. That's
that
what this is.
Was building into that too. Just the masses can really color the way that you are living a situation, right? One time I was on my way into a football game, and I got to walk past the line because I got to go in. Just go in. But as I walked past the line, somebody coughed, and then the next person up started choking. The next person up coughed. The whole line of people started coughing. And, like, I looked back to make sure, like, it wasn't just a bunch of kids, like, doing something stupid. Something that would make them cough. It was random, all kinds of people that got caught up in this odd feeling of, like, oh, there's something in the air and we're coughing now.
Well, but a lot of hysterias work that way. Is like, well...
You know, like the laughing hysteria?
Yeah, so it's called... If you've never heard of this, it's called Lake Tanganyika, like laughter epidemic or something. I think it's in Kenya, maybe. But they had to, like, shut down schools because there was a school where this one girl had, like, nervous laughter, and everybody caught it. Everybody. And then they sent the girls home to, like, the surrounding villages, and it spread to those villages. It's really interesting. but the way that a lot of hysterias work like that is there's something like in our like deep in the old part of our brains that says, well, if they're doing it, I need to do it, right? And so like if you were drinking out of like some water that looked kind of suspect, and then somebody was like, you wouldn't wait to figure out, you'd start doing it too, right? And like not because you chose to, but like you would just do it. When you see somebody throw up, what do?
You about to throw
You
up
about
too.
to throw up too. And that's exactly
but
what
they
it is,
ate the
right?
berries, you ate the berries, we're all throwing up the berries.
So, well, but you may not have.
Right, even if you didn't eat the berries, your body's like, get it out!
Yep, and that's what's going on there. But that's exactly kind of a similar situation.
But this whole town is caught up in this hysteria. Do you guys think that the police did a poor job investigating Lily's disappearance? Should they have... this church was just a little further back in the woods. It was just covered up with some vines and stuff. It wasn't like nobody... They should have known it was there. Do you think that they missed something?
Was she in the church, though?
No, but like there were things going on in the church.
Now? I don't know that there was anything then. I don't think they did a poor job. They searched the scene and where the scene led to. But like, if they're going to search the church, why not search the town? If they're going to search the town, why not go all the way to London? You know what I mean? Like at what point?
Right.
Maybe
do you think they did a reasonable job?
Oh yeah, they like trawled the lake and did all kinds of stuff. I mean, they did what they should have.
But when they, I don't know, like when you, I know that they can't just like keep searching forever and ever. But when you have gone through the whole lake, river, and you haven't found the body, well, then she's not in there. She's somewhere else.
I mean, that's not true, though. It's just not.
She might be somewhere else.
Maybe. And in this case, she was, right?
It's very sad when children disappear.
Did the cops do a good job or a bad job? I don't have to pick. Everybody does a bad job.
Yeah, the police didn't find the tunnel system in the house.
Yeah, so that is kind of... Well, but so... Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to check everybody's house for a tunnel system. Now, if I come to your house, I'm going to start knocking on walls looking for tunnels. You can thank me later.
On walls. Right. Shelby says if they suspected Julia that much, searching for hidey holes in the house would seem like a logical place to start.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so fine. Cops did a bad job. Fine.
Yeah, and they didn't use dogs to sniff the woods when they didn't find the body in the water. I mean...
Yeah. I mean, that's... Yeah. I don't know. I have been around police dogs before, and like the sniffing thing is not as reliable as you would want to think it is, but it's not bad. But.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, then, hindsight is 20/20, and this is an imaginary crime. So... So we are really critical of
answer your question. You can't judge us.
Investigation.
You can't judge us.
That was neither real.
Yeah.
And we know the answer at the end. So
all told, fantastic book.
Yeah, this is great.
I mean, it was really good. I mean, I meant to make a YouTube short of me just like walking around the backyard being like, what? What? Because this hit me from every angle and I didn't see it coming. Once all the pieces were there, I was like, okay, I got it. But I really don't think... Mark Edwards did a fantastic job of pointing the finger at literally everyone.
Yeah.
Just absolutely... Like, that guy drives a taxi. He could be a predator, right? Like,
right.
Okay, right? Well, that kid is handicapped. He could be a predator, right? Like, she has a red coat. She can be a predator. Everybody got their fingers pointed at him. But there was no hint... There were little hints about the pieces, but we were always missing the tie-in because there wasn't one perpetrator, right? We're looking at... we're looking at Karis, but we're also looking at Helen, but we're also looking at Helen's parents. There's really 3 crimes here. And because there were 3 crimes with 3 different motives, we were getting bits and pieces of all of them, but couldn't tie them together. And that was...
But that's what made this so good. You know, sometimes when you're like reading a whodunit, it's very frustrating by the end. Because it's like, this is so contrived and, like it doesn't work. But this felt quite real. Yeah. Crimes are messy, and it's this complication made it very satisfying. Yeah. So I definitely am adding his books to my personal list. I would love for y'all to let us know if you want to read those together, like throw those in as quick, because this was a quick read.
Yeah, we could have done this much shorter than 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, and so maybe what we do is let's do this. Let's do another Mark Edwards book, but let's save it for maybe like the Thanksgiving or Christmas season.
Yeah.
Don't want to
When
do
we're all
that.
kind of busy.
And, yeah, we're busy. We can't. And we know we're gonna like take a week off somewhere.
Yeah.
Let's say, and so we'll just say like, look, we're assigning this book. You have until the next episode, and then we're doing one episode on this thing.
Yeah.
Let's go from there. I think that'd be fun.
That could be cool.
Yeah.
And so the problem with doing a book in 1 week is I really like the way that we just pick things apart.
Yeah,
I like having a week where we don't know where it's going and we
Yeah.
can speculate. And it's fun just to like read through something like a normal person, but then we miss that breakdown and analysis.
Well, we can do this. Let's just do 2 episodes. Right?
Yeah.
And maybe even the middle episode isn't planned. Like, what if we say like, look, it's Thanksgiving. We know everybody's busy, or Christmas or whatever. We're gonna have our discussion on this book here. But whenever you and I hit the midpoint, and that could be the next day, knowing you, we will put up an episode for that if you want to play along.
Gotcha.
And we can film on our own schedule. Everybody can watch on their own.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, that could be a good option. Shelby says yes, more Mark Edwards. Peggy says yes. Shelby says that she enjoyed that the story didn't end until the last page. He wrapped up everything to a certain point, but kept you hanging.
Yeah.
I also really appreciate that there was a 2-page spread where he summarized everything for us. It was like, okay, here's where we put all the pieces together from the cops, and I was like, thank you for that, because I might have still been a little confused on a couple of points. And today I went back and read those 2 pages. I was like, oh yeah, because I forgot that Rodri was.
Yeah.
I still was thinking it was Glenn Collins. And I was like, no, I was confused. So that was nice the way that he kind of wrapped that up.
Yeah.
Gave me a spark note there right at the end.
Yep. It was good.
Yeah. So I like the idea of grabbing something else of his and popping that in over the holiday. I think that'll be a nice, quick one for us.
Let's all write him a letter and be like, we're in this book club. It's called Book We Never Read. It's on YouTube. We adore you.
We love you.
Look, and I'm going to remind everybody, this is our first book of what we're calling season 2, right? It's really our second year of doing this.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, like, strong start.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Strong start.
And Peggy says you also got to appreciate that he said Susie got her sexy book published.
Oh, did she? Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Even Susie got something a little wrapped up there. I feel really bad for Susie.
I feel bad for Max.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have been messing around.
And so I guess Karis killed him? No, Helen killed him. Yeah, Helen killed him. Yeah.
Helen.
Tore up.
Man.
Yeah. Tore up. Cool.
But I think what we see in Helen is what we can expect from Lily in the future. When you have that repressed.
Oh, yeah.
Yikes. Yeah. Yikes, Aroni. Helen and Karis can
So here's a pitch, Mr. Edwards. You write a book. It's like this. It's a mystery or whatever. And it's not like a sequel. Nobody knows. But in the end, you discover that the murderer is Lily from the retreat.
You want to know a phrase I never want to hear again?
What?
Sweet meat.
Yeah, not here for it. Banned word in our house.
So yeah, that was great. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Thank you all for playing along. We really enjoyed it. Thank you for sticking with us for almost an hour.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, we talked for a long time, but this was, I mean, even though we kind of know what was going on, it's still fun to like discuss and everything. I've been just suggesting this book to everybody because usually I suggest things that are a little too hard.
But this was just fun.
Yeah, for sure.
I couldn't put it down. I mean, anytime I picked it up, that was it.
I mean, like I cheated. I'll be honest.
And that'll learn you, because it's hard.
Yeah, never doing that
I
again.
accidentally overread before, and I was just like, I can't say anything because I'm going to spoil everything.
Yep.
It's so hard. But yeah. All right, guys.
Awesome.
Well, we're about to pop back on to do the syllabus episode for Rosewater, and we'll see you next week with our first reading of Rosewater.
Yep.
So go get your book if you haven't already. Peggy told her students about the book.
Cool.
Shelby's excited for the syllabus of Rosewater. Here we go. All right. Thank you, guys, and happy reading.
See y'all next week.
Bye. That was a good book.
Mm-hmm.
That